Once upon a time, there was a boy called John. John lived with his aunt in a smart house on the edge of a big city. And his aunt wanted him to work hard at school and do what he was supposed to and go out there and get a well-paying job. But John had heard the cry, had seen the light of the Sun King, and he knew there was nothing for him but to go out and slay dragons and giants of his own. He was determined he was going to be a hero. And of course, the first thing for any young hopeful wanting to be a hero is to dress like a hero. Now, he couldn't afford the full suit of armour, but he found that actually he could show the world that he was different just by taking off his school tie, turning up his shirt collars, combing his hair just right. And so he was well on his way by now, well on his way. But the next thing, the thing you really need to be a hero, is of course the sword. And that bit wasn't going to be easy because he knew that his aunt really wasn't going to approve, but he was in luck. He had a fairy godmother watching over him. And so a guitar was procured, and he leaned close to the speakers, listening to just how all of the heroes did it. Pretty soon, he worked out how to sound a bit like them. What's more, he learned how to start changing the words, coming up with songs and stories of his own. And he wasn't alone. All around town, there were other young hopefuls all setting out to become heroes. And they could very easily spot each other because they all stood out from the crowd. And so John met a boy called Paul, who knew a boy called George. And soon they gathered around themselves a gang, a band of outlaw adventurers, the Beatles. And as the Beatles, they knew they could be better together than any one lone wanderer could be on his own. This sort of thing, this was happening up and down the land, from coast to coast. Far, far away from that city where John lived, there was a young boy called Keith. Now, Keith lived with his parents on the edge of another big city. And he too had seen the light and heard the cry. What was even better was that his grandfather had been an adventurer in the wilds in his youth as well, and his sword hung upon the high wall of their house. And Keith would stare at that sword, stare up at it, even though he was just a young boy, and his grandfather would say to him, well, when you're tall enough to reach it, then you can have it. So Keith, he stretched, and he strained, and he struggled, and he wrenched his muscles so tight, and then he went and got a chair and a pile of cushions and books, and then he could reach the guitar. And then his grandfather taught him to play his first tune. Now, his parents didn't understand either. They thought it was all a waste of time. What they didn't understand was that being a hero wasn't about